Hello there, one and all, and welcome to Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. I am Eric, who you may call Eric, and with me is Devon, who you may call Gibby.
Hello, everyone.
Now, Mr. Gibby, Mr. Devon, I've been informed that it's been some time since our last time we talked.
You've been informed that we haven't talked in a talking bit. I mean, we talked last week, sitting here with our little marshmallows. I have a vegan marshmallow over the campfire underneath the bridge here in Happy Slappy Town. But yeah, we haven't really spoken since then.
Yeah, we've...
I guess
mhm.
I guess my first question is, did you enjoy your marshmallow?
It was okay. I have a non-vegan marshmallow.
Mm-hmm.
You get it roasty toasty, get some brown on it by the
When
fire.
you roast a marshmallow, so I have very different experiences roasting marshmallows because I was a Boy Scout, but then my dad also took us camping a lot. So there was the like, oh, you need to hold the marshmallow kind of close to the flame and just like kind of make it a little hard, right? Like use the heat to make it hard. And then some
You
people
mean
were like,
soft?
oh, you got no, the outside becomes hard when it's heated. The inside becomes gooey.
Okay.
Um, and then there's the people who are like, if the marshmallow didn't catch on fire at any point and make a scaly black exterior, you did it wrong.
Right.
So where were you on the marshmallow toasting
So
spectrum?
growing up, I wanted like the brown outside,
Mm-hmm.
or like just part of it, not the whole thing necessarily. But in more recent years, truly, it just depends on if I'm feeling chaotic. Like, if I have the patience for it, I'll just sit there and have it be on the edge of the fire. But if I'm like, no, I want a marshmallow now, I will stick it into the fire until it catches on fire. And then I will either let the marshmallow have the flame burn out by itself, if I can,
Mm-hmm.
or then I'll just blow it out.
Yeah, I think the logic as kids was like, you can slowly toast it for a while, or you just let it catch on fire and immediately blow it out, and that's the same as it slowly toasting, right? Because it caught on fire a lot for a little amount of time, or a little for a little amount of time, right? Like those are the options, and so they're the same thing.
They are not.
They're not at all. Roasting marshmallows is really the only circumstance in which I will willingly find something on the ground in the woods and then put it in my mouth. Because like we used real sticks, like we
Yeah.
go stomping in the underbrush, find a stick, shove a marshmallow on it, put it in the fire, and then maybe pick it off the stick, or maybe just shove the marshmallow in your mouth like a lollipop with the stick, like as the handle. And if you told me right now, like, hey, go eat that stick like you're a dog, I'd be like, no, that's disgusting. You put a marshmallow on the end though, it's sanitary.
Well, is it a matter of sanitary though, or is it just a thing you want?
It was a thing I want. I think some people have the logic of like, if you burn if you put the stick in the fire before you put the marshmallow on so that the tip gets like black and charcoal,
Yep.
then you've burned off any like forest germs. You're obviously still just eating burnt carbon at that point, but like, at least it's more sanitary. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. I think I was like a teenager before I saw the concept of like bringing a metal marshmallow roasting stick with you to camping. I'm like, I guess it's more sanitary, but like that's not the point.
No, yeah, you have to at least once in your life go into the woods or something, or just if you have trees around your house or something, you pick up a stick, you put that bad marshmallow on the stick, and you chuck it in the fire.
Yeah. I've never roasted a vegan marshmallow, so I don't know if it works. I will say that probably the only thing I miss as a vegetarian is marshmallows. It's very sad. I miss Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms for the goat. I miss them. Coke put out a flavor called Coke Starlight, which at first they weren't telling anybody what it was meant to be, but I think it was supposed to have the taste of going camping under the stars, and so it tasted kind of like Lucky Charms marshmallows. And I realized at that point how much I missed them, and then they discontinued the flavor. So I'm sad, but it's fine.
Wild. I did not know that.
You know?
Lucky Charms were my favorite growing up too. Them and Honey Nut Cheerios. As an adult now, though, I'm like, what was I eating?
Sugar cardboard.
And also, I have thoughts, like, every, once a year or something of, like, should I get a box of Lucky Charms? No, that's silly. That's silly. But what?
Should I have candy for breakfast?
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah. Like, I just saw a headline this week that was like, pizza is more healthy for you for breakfast than cereal. And I'm like, yeah, like, duh.
Yeah, I'm not... Well, yeah. That's not too surprising.
I do like... I think I could mess with a bowl of Frosted Flakes. Like, if I was at a hotel and they were offering, like, continental breakfast and they had, like, Frosted Flakes, I'd be like, I could have some Frosted Flakes.
Yeah, you get Frosted Flakes. I still think Cheerios are fine.
I was never a Cheerios guy, but honeycombs. I liked honeycombs.
Honeycombs are good. Honey Smacks. Anything with honey in it, let's be real. Mm-hmm.
Captain Crunch, I thought we very rarely had Captain Crunch.
Same.
But I remember it cuts your mouth. Like, actually.
I mean, that's what you want.
Yeah, I'm always like, wow, it's an experience eating the Captain Crunch, and it does taste good. But I'm like, the part of the experience is it cuts your mouth open.
Well, I found that with, like, any of those. Like, even Lucky Charms, it was much more reduced. But by the time I finished eating a bowl of any of those cereals, I would be like, my mouth is sore or in pain from, like, cardboard cuts.
Yeah. Did you ever do, like, you pour a bowl of Lucky Charms and then you eat all of the non-marshmallows first, and you have to get every single one, and then you enjoy the marshmallows, and then you, like, slurp down the milk because now it's, like, marshmallow flavored?
So remember last week when I asked the internet forgive me?
Yes.
So I'm asking the internet to forgive me again.
Oh, no.
I don't know what happened in my childhood. I still think it's fine. I would still do it to this day. I just don't eat cereal that much. Hear me out.
Okay, are you going to say that you don't drink the milk in your cereal?
Not only do I not drink the milk in my cereal, I don't use milk at all.
Excuse me?
In any capacity. I have a dry bowl of cereal.
Oh, that's fine. I thought you were going to say something psychotic like you put water in it.
No. Well, so, part of the balance, I will take... And it's not for every bite. Sometimes you're just feeling frisky. You take a spoonful of cereal, and then you have a glass of water with you because you gotta wash it down after you chew. But...
Sure.
But what if you have a spoonful of cereal in your mouth, drink some water, let the cereal absorb the water in your mouth, and then it gets kind of soggy, and then you mush it down?
Just seems like you could save some steps there by putting the cereal in milk first and eating it out of a bowl.
Yeah, but I don't do that every time. I don't want all of my bites to be soggy messes. Milk kind of sucks.
Soggy Frosted Flakes are better than normal Frosted Flakes. That's my take.
I never had milk in cereal, so I cannot say.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with dry cereal. I agree. Dry cereal straight out of the box. Again, at that point, you're just eating candy.
Well, the milk doesn't make it that much better. Let's be...
No,
you're still eating candy.
Milk just adds, just like, hey, do you want some more sugar and more fat on that? But yeah, it's fine. The water thing's a little weird. So I guess you never had the experience of using a spoon to fish out the cardboard out of the Lucky Charms and then just eat all the marshmallows at once.
No.
Okay. That's fine. Cool. I'm not disappointed at all.
See, that's what you're saying, but your tone makes me...
I don't have a tone. I don't know what you're talking about. My tone is completely normal. I don't know what you're talking about.
So we're just gonna
move on.
We're just gonna stand back to back like we're not having an argument.
When the episode opened, you said that you had a question for me, and then I totally derailed that with marshmallows. What was your question?
No, we're on the marshmallow train. All aboard.
We're underneath the bridge that has the railroad tracks for the Marshmallow train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Because we're hobos.
Right.
In case for some reason someone started watching like 4 episodes ago and we haven't mentioned that we're hobos underneath an any when bridge, we're hobos underneath an any when bridge outside of Happy Slappy Town.
Yeah. Just normal things.
Just normal things.
Yeah, so, no, I mean, my question was gonna be like, oh, how have you been? It's been so long, how was your week? But now what's the point?
And my week's kind of ruined now. No. So, currently, it was Thanksgiving this past week, was it not?
It was.
So, my mother and I went to go see Wicked on Thanksgiving evening because I love musicals, and Thanksgiving is very much associated with The Wizard of Oz, which is why the movie's coming out. And I wanted to see it, and she wanted to see it, and we haven't been to the movies since I stopped working there. And so, okay, we have no plans on Thanksgiving, so we're gonna make homemade pizzas because that's our traditional Thanksgiving food, and we're gonna go watch Wicked at the theater. And we did that, and it was fun. And so I don't want to talk like about the movie too much because I'm sure people don't like that because either they've seen it and they don't want to hear it, or they haven't seen it and they don't care. But I will say, loved the movie, 9 out of 10, phenomenal movie. I cannot wait for part 2.
Wow. I didn't even know there was going to be a part 2.
Yeah, this is only the first part. The movie ends at the intermission from the stage play. Yep.
So, good movie, I guess, then.
Great movie. Ariana Grande should get Best Supporting Actress. Fight me.
Bold words.
You've talked about enjoying musicals before. Have you ever listened to or watched Wicked, and do you have any interest in the movie?
No.
Why?
To all of them.
You do like musicals.
Oh, I do like musicals.
Look at me. I'm Eric, and I listen to Pregnant Waitresses.
Wow. We really do be the pregnant waitresses.
That's all I remember from that conversation.
Jeez. I mean, that is kind of a lot of it.
What was the name of the Pregnant Waitress play?
Waitress.
Okay. Not Pregnant Waitress.
Not Pregnant Waitress. You just removed one word though. You're pretty close.
The musical.
No, Wicked, I just never cared about. I don't care about The Wizard of Oz. I have no feelings about that world.
Have you seen the movie?
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Okay.
Little girl crushes people. It's so wild. A tornado happens, a house falls on a witch, and they're like, wow, little girl, you killed someone. And she's like, I killed someone. And it's like, no, this was a freak accident. What's up with this?
Yeah, and then they start singing. Like, yeah, you did it. Ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead.
Yeah, but
then they literally start cheering, like, yo, she's gone where the goblins go, below. Like, that's even more, like, this woman will have no peace in eternity. She will not regain God's light. She has gone down.
Yeah, you must have been pretty bad if an entire town sings that at your death.
Well, if only there was some sort of prequel movie about just that concept.
Gosh, if only there was a way, but it just seems too implausible of a thing. It's been well established. She's a terrible, terrible person with no hopes of redemption.
So, I knew nothing about the Wicked story before going in, except for, like, oh, you kind of learn her backstory and that she's not really such a bad guy. Like, that's literally the only thing I knew about the entire concept.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing you also don't know much about the concept.
I am in that boat.
So, again, I'm not going to, like, summarize the whole movie, but, Wicked Witch of the West is born green, and her parents, like, disown her, and then they have another daughter, but she's born and her legs don't work, so she's in a wheelchair her whole life. And it's because they were doing these, like, tests and experiments to make sure that she wasn't going to come out green, and so she ended up coming out prematurely. So that's why her legs don't work. And then, like, they go off to wizard school, and she befriends Ariana Grande, and they sing and dance. And by the end of this movie, like, she finds out, from the original movie, that the Wizard of Oz is a complete fraud. He, like Dorothy, comes from our world and just kind of used his huckster carny talent to become known as, Oz the Wonderful, Oz the Great and Powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Wicked Witch finds this out, and it's like, you have no magic, but you're governing us like a king, and that's not cool. And then she runs away. And, like, that's the plot of the beginning of the movie, and then I'm sure that the next, I'm sure there's going to be more to it.
Yeah.
And I'm skipping over literally every bit of context. But she's going to school because the little sister's going to school, and she's not actually supposed to attend because she's like the hated daughter, but then she attends anyway because she has magic powers. And then the younger sister is like just the nicest little girl in a wheelchair ever. And there's like this little munchkin boy who's like, she's falling in love with, and falling in love with her. And like the older sister keeps getting involved in these antics to protect the younger sister. And it's like, wow, she's just like, she's so sweet. And like, she exists in the story to be the reason, so the older sister, the Wicked Witch, needs to do all this stuff to make the plot move forward. But it would be very like self-serving and self-centered of her to do it on her own behalf, so she does it on the sister's behalf, right? Like that's the narrative functional reason for the sister to be in the story, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so again, I know nothing about Wicked or what happens in part 2, but I know from the original Wizard of Oz that this kind sister who's in a wheelchair is going to be in Munchkin Land. A house is going to fall on her. We're going to see her useless legs sticking out from underneath the house, and then they're going to curl up into her socks, and Dorothy's going to steal her shoes.
Right.
Yes, like this nice sister in the wheelchair is the Wicked Witch of the East or whatever that gets killed in the original movie.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like, the Wicked Witch of the West, I totally see how she becomes the person we see in the original Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Right? She's a terrible person, wants to kill the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Get the slippers, and your little dog too, bad person. And this movie is showing us how she's being radicalized against the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen anything about the younger sister being radicalized. And then in the original movie, we never see her do anything wrong because she dies before we even know that she exists.
Right.
So I'm just saying, I think it's going to be a tall order to convince me that, she should have died, that it's good that she died.
Mm-hmm.
Or that it's reasonable that she died.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the movie's trying to tell you it's not good that she died, I'm going to be like, oh no, little girl just got crushed by a house. That's no good.
Okay, you want to hear my guesses?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll hear yours afterwards, because you have more context. I think either A, she's just related to the Green Witch, and that's just enough for everyone to be like, you must be evil.
Mm-hmm.
In part 2, right? Maybe, I don't know if they know they're sisters or whatever. Option B is that she's so kind, and everyone does everything for her because she's so kind and sweet, that when things don't go her way, or like maybe the Wicked Witch, the green one, her older sister, is like, actually, I've sacrificed a lot for you without you knowing, and I want to live my life. So then she has to, like, live her life, and then, like, she actually comes up against a lot of trials and tribulations that her older sister was preventing for her, and then she's like, this is fake, this is rude, how dare this be a thing? My life was pretty smooth sailing up till now, and I'm gonna do things about it. And then she goes about it the wrong way.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I like the movie, and I'm sure, obviously, people like the full movie, so I'm sure the entire story is equally as compelling. I just feel like I walked out of the movie, and I'm like, the movie treated it like I'm not supposed to know that the sister is going to turn evil and then get dead. So it's a little odd. But I will say, I think that probably the biggest failing of the movie. So one of the weird things from a movie-making standpoint is that the show starts and we get a flashback to the Wicked Witch's conception, where she has her parents who are married, and then the dad is like the mayor and he leaves, and then a male suitor comes and knocks on the door, and you find out that the mother's cheating on the husband. And so they start doing the horizontal tango. And so the idea is that the Wicked Witch is conceived, with the man that the mother is cheating on. And now, going into the movie, again, I knew literally nothing about it.
Right.
I knew that Ariana Grande is in it. I knew that Jeff Goldblum's the wizard. I didn't know that Peter Dinklage played this goat. because I do like Peter Dinklage, and he plays a goat.
Okay.
So I'm watching the movie. We're 5 minutes in. They're singing. There's adultery. Blah blah blah. The male suitor comes in, and they're obscuring his face in shadow, so you don't see what he looks like. And then he starts singing, and it's Jeff Goldblum.
Close.
And
Okay.
I'm like, oh, so I guess her father's the wizard.
Mm.
And then because I know that Jeff Goldblum's playing wizard, and then it goes forward, and then the story goes on, and like the husband never finds out that he got cheated on, and then she goes to magic school, and then she like gets a summons to the kingdom, and she meets the wizard, and she finds out that he's a fraud.
And she's
And I'm
like,
like,
wow,
oh,
your
I
voice
guess...
is really familiar. Are you my dad?
Well, no, because she was the only scene that he was in the movie was her conception. But we as the audience, I'm like, okay, it hid his face in shadow, so we're not supposed to know it's the wizard. But they cast Jeff Goldblum to sing, and we're not supposed to recognize that he's that he's the father. But if you are, why did they hide his face in shadow? And I guess, like, I don't even know how you do this on stage. But so I'm like leaving the movie, and I'm like, by the end of the movie, it never says who her father is. She doesn't even know that her father's not her father, you know, that the mayor man's not her father. And I'm like, are we supposed to know that the wizard's her dad? Is he, like, am I wrong and it's not Jeff Goldblum? Because it sounded like Jeff Goldblum. It was very obviously Jeff Goldblum.
It was actually the husband. They just had a bit of role play.
And he did his Jeff Goldblum impression. Yeah, so, like, I don't want to know anything about part 2. I don't want any spoilers, so I'm not looking it up. But I'm like, if the movie doesn't want us to know this thing that I'm sure is a twist, but it just showed it. It just showed who he was. It's very odd. Very odd.
Yeah, maybe it's meant to be like, hey, adults, this won't be a surprise as much for you if you're paying attention to, like, acting, casting, and stuff, but children aren't paying attention to that, so...
I don't know. Anyway, that's what I did on Thanksgiving. I saw Wicked, had some homemade pizza, watched some TV, had the dogs, you know, love the dogs. I want to tell you about a TV show that I started watching recently, but I want you to tell me about your Thanksgiving first.
Yeah, you know, it was so good I decided to have it twice for the first time. I went to, I had Thanksgiving with my family and stuff, and, you know, it was... You know, ham's better than turkey, and then...
You know what else is better than turkey?
Chicken.
Homemade pizza, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then I had a Friendsgiving with a group of friends, and...
Was there spaghetti?
No, it was almost the same set. It was turkey, it was stuffing, it was all of the food from Thanksgiving just again. Just more. Because now you get to eat it in the company of your friends.
Yes, Friendsgiving.
There was mac and cheese, which I feel like is an uncommon pick for traditional Thanksgiving. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I disagree. That's a very normal thing for Thanksgiving.
Not
baked.
It wasn't. It was. Well, I guess it was baked.
I don't know. I think mac and cheese is very normal.
Well, but you have your potatoes and your stuffing, and then I think people are just like, mac and cheese, what do we need that for?
Your weird marshmallow yam dish.
Yeah. That's not weird. That's a normal pick.
Okay.
People made that for the Friendsgiving.
And how did they, what color were the marshmallows? Like, did they burn them on a fire? Were they just a little brown?
They put them in the oven and baked it.
Okay. They didn't use that little flamethrower to brown them?
No.
Okay.
No. But yeah, it was cool. It was nice seeing people and stuff.
All right. No spaghetti, though. It's fine. It's whatever.
Why would... You didn't even have spaghetti.
That is... Well, the spaghetti is for Friendsgiving, which we didn't have. I had pizza for Thanksgiving, because that's what you have on Thanksgiving.
In opposite world.
In opposite world, yeah. Okay, so besides Thanksgiving this week, I've been working a lot, and if we have time, I'd like to tell you what I've been working on. Ooh.
Okay.
But before that, I want to tell you about this television show that I've been watching.
All right.
It's called Taskmaster. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of this show. I have watched Like,
Ooh.
5-7 seasons of it.
No way!
Yeah.
Dude, I've been binging this for the last month.
It's pretty good.
It's amazing.
It came
I'm on season 13 right now, yeah.
Nice. It came out, and then every country was like, okay, here's Taskmaster Australia, here's Taskmaster America. We're just blatant. Maybe it's under the same studio stuff, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
it's great.
I've gone down the rabbit hole. I got my mother addicted to it, so like we'll be like in the same season, but like maybe a day or two behind or ahead as like things go.
Yeah.
But yeah, on season 13, I started watching like interviews with like Alex Horn, the host and the creator of the show. It turned me on to a lot of different comedians. So like now I'm watching like, oh, James Acaster, he was one of the contestants, and I'm just like watching his stand up now. But no, I'm like really, really into it, and I'm still watching it. There's a couple seasons I'm behind. But yeah, it's all available for free on YouTube.
Yes.
So you can just go and watch it. You don't need a subscription. It's not a service, a streaming or whatever. It's just on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. When did you get into it?
Great show. Like a year or two ago.
Wow. And you never mentioned it? You're never like, man, Gibby would like this.
Well, no, I don't do that with any TV shows, really.
This isn't some weird anime, Eric. This is a funny British man show.
Well, yeah, you know.
Okay, so I guess for the audience,
we
should explain the concept of the show.
Taskmaster is a show where you do tasks for the master.
There's a comedian named Alex Horn, and he came up with the idea where you give people tasks, and the concept is like, oh, they might have a funny way of solving it, or they might use lateral thinking and come up with an alternate execution of the solution, or just doing it is silly. And so he's like the co-host. He goes along with the people as they do the tasks and films it, but the show is actually hosted by another comedian named Greg Davies, who does not know the tasks going in. In the fiction of the show, he is the taskmaster setting all the goals and the obstacles and the tasks, but he really just sits there and then he'll judge them. Like, oh, your performance was good, you get 3 points. Oh, your performance sucked, you get 1 point. And there's a bunch of other segments, like they usually do a live studio challenge in the auditorium when they're filming it. It's all in front of a live studio audience. But the main tasks are all filmed in this little house that they have. It's the Taskmaster house. And so they can do silly things like find all the ducks, and then one of them is like below, below like the floor tiles, so they have to peel up the floor. But yeah, so they get 5 comedians per season, and each episode they do 3 or so tasks plus the live challenge. And then at the end of the episode, they win something. At the end of the season, whoever's the most points wins, and then they move on to new contestants. And so you got people out there who's like, oh my God, season 11, that was the best one because it had the funniest guy. Or, oh my God, remember in season 3 when this person did that? And so it has this full, each season's only like 10 episodes. It has this full culture online of people who follow it. The tasks themselves are funny. The way I was introduced to it is because one of them was recommended to me, just like on YouTube as a recommended thing. And I watched it. I'm like, that's funny. What is the context of this funny clip I just saw of these little guys running around doing nonsense? And then I started watching full episodes of the show. But there's so much lore. There's so much stuff about the contestants and the hosts themselves. But no, I've been obsessed with it for a month, and I'll watch it, and I'll go downstairs, and my mother will be on the TV watching, the same episode, and so we talk about it. So like at least once a day, we're like, oh my God, did you hear that Alex Horn did this? Oh my God, did you see this episode where this happened?
Lols, nice.
So yeah, it's very much taken over my life for the last month.
That's good. If there's a show to take over your life, it should be Taskmaster.
Yeah, it's so wholesome.
Yeah, it's also an adult show. Maybe don't show your child.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of uncensored cursing and some mild sexual jokes, but no, it's fun. It's funny.
It's very good.
There was one guy in one of the seasons. So just because of the way that they film the tasks, I think they're all filmed over the course of a couple days, spread out over a few months. So like you might only have 3 filming days to do all, 30 tasks. So there's this one guy. People will often show up in costumes. So like one person was like in a cape for every single one of their segments, and then one person like had a little like a raincoat with like a skull skeleton on it. So this one guy was in this really funny getup, but his pants were tight, and so you could basically see his bulge the entire season. And so they just kept making comments about like his balls were just hanging out the whole show.
Yep.
And so like that was a humorous one.
I forget his name.
I forget his name too. But, I have my favorites. Everyone will have like, oh, this person's my favorite. There's this one contestant. Her name's Charlotte Ritchie, and she lost her season bad. Like, she just like was terrible at the show.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I fell in love with her. She's amazing. She's like the greatest person ever, and I will marry her. She might already be married. But that's the
Play the
power
long
of the show.
game.
That's the power of the show. I'll be like, oh my god, I saw you on Taskmaster.
Wow.
And she'll be like, wow, no one has ever said that to me before. It's so funny because like in England, Taskmaster is just like a show.
Yes.
And a lot of these comedians will go on other shows and like talk shows and like game shows. Like they have this whole like genre of show. I don't know if you ever watched At Midnight, but they have a genre of show that's just like comedians doing game shows.
Okay.
It's funny. At Midnight was a comedian show here hosted by Chris Hardwick that came on at midnight, and it was 3 comedians doing like Jeopardy but funny. So to them over in England, Taskmaster is just like one of those shows. But because it's for free on the internet for the rest of the world, those comedians that go on it become worldwide celebrities, and they break out of their little British bubble. And so they kind of like in their home country, it's like, oh, that guy's on Taskmaster, or whatever. But in America, it's like, that guy's on Taskmaster. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Great show. Highly recommend.
Big recommends.
Big recommends. I was a couple days after watching Wicked, I listened to the soundtrack, and I was thinking about it a lot, and I wanted to watch another musical. And as you know, it is now early December, and so it's Christmassy times.
Okay.
And so I wanted to watch a musical that was very Christmassy.
Yeah.
And a musical that I associate with Christmas is Wonka from last year with Timothée Chalamet.
Okay.
Because it's like set in the winter, it's very Dickensian, and it reminds me of Christmas, and it's a musical, and I love that movie. That's like, I think that's one of my favorite movies in general. So I'm watching Wonka, and have you seen Wonka?
I have not.
Okay, great movie. You should absolutely watch it. Genuinely masterpiece. Great movie. And so there's this scene where Wonka's going around, and it cuts to just like this couple, and one of them and the guy proposes, and the woman's like, oh my god, this is amazing, like, you're going to take me on all these adventures, and he's like, oh, never mind, I'm not really the adventuring type, and he walks away. He has no confidence. And Wonka gives him chocolate, and they start singing a song about how amazing Wonka chocolate is, and throughout the course of the song, he then goes, he gets his confidence back, he finds the woman, proposes, he kisses her, and they get married. So over the course of the song, where the entire town is singing and dancing about Wonka chocolate, and the police are running around trying to find Wonka, there's the subplot in the background of just this guy getting his courage back and proposing to the woman and them getting married.
Okay.
So I'm watching this movie that I've already seen, and this scene starts, and it's him proposing to her, and I literally do a spit take, because the guy doing the proposing is the guy from Taskmaster whose balls are out for a whole season, and the woman being proposed to is Charlotte Ritchie. I'm like, what? It's those guys I know.
It's them. I've seen them.
It's the people. I know them now. This is crazy. They're eating Wonka chocolate? Crazy. Yeah, so that was that was basically the thing I wanted to discuss on the show, is the serendipity of that happening. And I'm like, I have to explain Taskmaster. And then you surprised me because you've watched it, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, great show. I think my favorite season is season 5, I want to say, with Nish Kumar. He's the only one whose name I fully know. Mark, Sally Mae. I just lied. I know her name.
Yeah.
Who actually was Sally Mae a different season? I don't remember. No, I think she was. And then there were two other. There was an Irish woman and an older man. But they just had such a wholesome season.
Yeah.
It was so pure. And one of the things, like, Nish is amazing. He's so funny. He just keeps messing it up. And when he does win, it just feels extra good. And the song he and Mark came up with was like, damn. They're just... They made up an entire song about a random woman in like an hour or less, and it slaps.
Yep. Yeah, that was season 5. Wow. Yeah, no, that whole show, it's great. Again, if you're watching this and you haven't heard of it, go give it a watch. It might not be your thing, but if it is, it's going to be a new obsession. I cannot stop watching it. It's literally taken over my life.
It's a good show.
Great show. Wow.
Quirky that, huh?
That is really quirky, really serendipitous.
Wait, what's your favorite season?
I'd have to like look at. I don't know them by number. It might be 11.
Who's in it? Charlotte Ritchie, James A. Caster?
No, not her season. Although she is probably my favorite. I think it's the James A. Caster season. Is that season 11?
Shrug. I only know season 5 like that.
Yeah. So season 7. Yeah, that's with the Balls man, James A. Caster. And then there's this girl on it, Jessica Knappett, who's just like insane. Yeah, Phil Wang is the guy whose balls are out the whole time. Yeah, so season 7, I guess, is my favorite. But again, they're all amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah, they're all great.
I would roast marshmallows while watching that show.
Yeah?
I'd roast its marshmallows. Mm-hmm.
Be careful. Hey.
Did you do anything else this week?
No, I've been animal sitting for people I know, because Thanksgiving week, so people like to go out to places. Been doing that. Thanksgiving, finishing up not finishing up. All of the shopping from the holidays has been done, but now they've all actually arrived, so now they can be wrapped. And
Does your family have a tree up yet?
No.
Okay, are you a fake tree or a real tree family?
Real tree, like a good pagan.
Good. I'm very anti-fake tree.
Yeah. We do have a fake tree, though.
But you also have a real tree, though.
Yeah, so the fake tree is for outside, and the real tree is for inside.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
We have a friend who their post-Thanksgiving dinner thing is to put up their Christmas tree. And so, like, she sent us pictures. She's like, look at the Christmas tree, aw. And then we have another friend who's currently, like, in an apartment in a big city. It's like, oh, I put up my fake tree, too. I'm like, I'm anti-fake tree, grumple face. We need to get real tree. And so then I'd been talking to the one friend. I'm like, hey, when my family goes Christmas treeing, like, we should come, and you're like, you should see how it is to chop down a real Christmas tree. Oh my God. So I'm just kind of walking through my house, I'm getting something from the kitchen. My mom's in the living room watching Taskmaster.
No.
She's like, Devon, I have something to ask you. I said, okay. She's like, Black Friday's coming up, and I want to ask if you'd be okay with us getting an artificial tree.
No.
I'm like, how dare you? You know why I have such strong feelings about real trees? Because you pass them down to me.
Oh.
This is your tradition. What are you doing? I had a crisis. I had a tree crisis.
Because only the blue ones are available, not the green ones?
No, just because, like, my own mother would dare even consider getting an artificial Christmas tree.
Yeah, my parents brought that up as well. And I think it's just an age thing. They're not as spry as they used to be, and they're gonna chop down a tree?
Oh my God. For the last 3 years, we've been chopping down trees in my backyard to use. So, like, we haven't had to go to, like, a tree farm or to a Home Depot or anything, because we've just been using my trees. My thing is that if you get the artificial tree now, like, oh, this year it'll just be more convenient. We don't really have a spot for a real tree. Okay, next year, every year for the rest of your life, you're going to stare at the artificial tree in the box, and you're going to be like, what is easier, putting this up, which I already paid for, or going to get a real tree? And then you're always going to default to the fake one.
Yeah.
And then hundreds of years of tradition are gone. Your ancestors put up Christmas trees. I don't know about you, I don't know, but my family's partially English. So my ancestors putting up them big Christmas trees over in English land. If they knew their descendant was putting up fake trees.
I don't think they'd care too much. They'd be like, wow, look at you. You can set up a fake tree? Fake trees are a thing? That's crazy.
It's sad. It's big sad. I'm anti fake.
I am also
unless you're allergic. Unless you're allergic to real trees.
I don't know. Just,
Well, no, if you're allergic to real Christmas trees, then like yeah, obviously you can't have one.
Substitute with a different real tree. Get a palm tree.
No, me and when we were first debating whether or not we were going to get the fake tree or the real tree, which technically is not a debate that's over yet. I was like, okay, if we get a fake tree, we're also getting air fresheners that smell like Christmas tree, and we're putting them on it because I want my house to smell like a Christmas tree. That's part of the Christmas time.
This is very true.
Very, very true. That's my Christmas tree rant.
That's fair. Because it's also, I mean, the fake tree you take in and out of a box, and then I guess you decorate it, but like you could decorate a real tree, and then that's like 2 hours or so of bonding with the people you live with, and you're like, wow, look at this Christmas ornament, or this whatever ornament, or that one, and you made this ornament in 2nd grade. Wow.
And
yeah.
And for me, a big part is like, that means every year the tree will look different, and the way you put the lights on will be different. And so if you look at pictures, you're like, oh yeah, that's the tree. That was that tree. As opposed to using the same artificial tree for 20 years.
Sure.
Especially the ones that have the lights pre-built on them. You just have the same tree every year, and that's lame.
I will say, if you know what you're doing, the light placement will be roughly the same. However, understandable.
Well, I mean, I'm a colored lights person, so it can't be exactly the same each time.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, colored lights are the way to go. You need the blues, reds, greens, oranges,
yes,
yellows.
100%.
People
100%.
that put like LED lights that are just white on their tree baffle me. Like, don't you want color in your life?
Well, the colored white ones can be classy. I'm just a fan of the big, gaudy, like the big, colorful ones.
The big bulbs that are like...
Big bulbs.
You can't buy anymore.
No. I know that they make, I'm going to call them like light strip LED ones. So like you can like use an app on your phone and change the color, and that's fine. That's cool with me. Like if you want the white ones, you use white. If you want color, you use color. If you switch them up every single day, that's fine too. I think that's the future of Christmas trees. But no, I like the big bulbs.
Big bulbs are cool.
Big bulbs.
I do think the only argument for artificial tree I can see, right, is that, like, you know, you buy one tree and then it's convenient and whatever.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, right, of like, oh, every year it's different if you get a real tree and versus, you know, it'll be the same tree for the next 20 years because it's just the thing you do.
Yep.
You name that artificial tree, though. That becomes a part of your family for 1 month. It's like, wow, it's Terry the tree.
That's true, I guess. It becomes part of the decorations. And again, obviously, people with allergies, or if you have like a cat that eats the trees and gets sick, then like those are reasons to get fake trees. Or if you live in like a city and you can't get a real tree, like I've never known that. I live in a place that has Christmas tree farms in every block, so it's always been easy for my family. Have you ever cut down your own tree, like from a farm, or do you always go to like a Home Depot and you just buy one?
Nah, we go to the farms.
Okay, good.
No,
I do that at least once.
Yeah, you know, it's fine enough. You gotta pick out one in a row of ponds, a sea of trees, and be like, that's the one.
Yep.
That's the one that can fit.
You use a saw and you chop it up. and then you put it in the little tree netter, and
Yeah.
it puts a big net on it, and then you put it on top of your car.
Nah, you put it in the car.
You put it in the car.
If you got a big truck.
Oh yeah, if you have a truck, that's fine. I was gonna say, what kind of small trees you get in there, lad?
Lols. I will say, people don't give enough credit to, like, the peanut trees, and by which, do you remember the famous franchise The Peanuts with Snoopy and Charlie Brown?
I do.
And then they, like, pick out the derpiest, saddest tree, but then they dress it real nice, and it becomes a nice, small tree. I think people don't give enough trees like that a chance.
I could totally see myself, like, let's say that I get married to someone who wants artificial trees. I could see myself being like, okay, but every year we're gonna get a 2-foot tall tree to go in the corner to smell like a Christmas tree. Like, I can see myself getting a Charlie Brown tree every year.
Tree gang rise up. It is maybe a little wasteful. Just
For
the
what?
amount of, well, like, I don't know. I just think about those trees sometimes, and you're like, you had a whole life ahead of you, and I took that for like a month, if that.
But it was planted to be a Christmas tree.
I know, but if you have Terry the artificial tree that begins a tradition for 20 years and plus, and then you get Trent the real Christmas tree, and you kill him, and he lasts for a month, and then you have to accept what you've done, and you have to go through that grieving process every year.
Don't be sorry that it's over. Be glad that it happened, Eric. Terry the Christmas tree was yours for a month.
No, Trent
the Christmas tree was good was happy for a month, and you give him a good death on the curb, browning. Like a good Christmas tree.
No, you chuck them in the woods.
Oh, yeah, if you have woods.
And that's the other. I swear I'm anti-artificial tree. But like, because we get real trees and we do want them to last into like January, like by the end of the first or second week of January, like. You can't really get them, like, the day after Thanksgiving or whatever, because it just...
They dry up sometimes.
They dry up, they get old, depending on how they're cut, it just might not live all that time.
Yep.
So that is another pro for artificial Christmas trees of just, like, you could set it up after Thanksgiving Day, and you're like, boom, that's gonna stay there till June.
Can I segue into the last thing I want to discuss?
Really quickly, do artificial pumpkins aren't a thing? Like, we don't do this with Halloween. Yeah, but with faces in them?
I don't think so. Or if they do, they're really cheap. Like, I don't know anyone who's like, I'm going to buy one artificial jack-o'-lantern to put outside my door every year. Yeah, that's fake. That's dumb. Real jack-o'-lanterns for life that lasts 3 days, yeah.
Yeah. And then squirrels eat their insides. Okay, what's your other thing?
So, I watched 3 musicals this week.
Oh my gosh.
Wonka, and another one. And I watched another movie.
Waitress?
A musical. No. It's called Brigadoon.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of it? Okay. I brought it up to my mother, and she's like, I love that movie. I'm like, wow, I didn't think you'd ever have heard of it. It's from 1954.
Okay.
She's like, no, it's good. Okay, so I sit down and I watch it. Now, I'm home alone. I'm home alone watching it. I'm watching it because I learned what the premise was. There's a specific reason I had to, quote-unquote, had to watch it for my job, but I'll keep that till the end. So, Eric, I'm going to give you the experience of what it's like watching this movie. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie's 2 hours long.
Right.
So normal movie length. Full 2-hour cinematic movie. 1954.
Yeah.
It's in color. It's got sound, but it's got that old, 1950s sound kind of thing going. It's all filmed on the set. And so, the backgrounds are cardboard, wood, etc. So it opens, and there's these two American businessmen from New York City, and they're in Scotland, and they're running through the Highlands, and they got guns, so they're hunting. They're on a little hunting vacation in Scotland, and they got lost. And they're like, oh man, we really did get lost in the woods. This is so sad. And so they're just kind of wandering, and they see a town in the distance, a little village. And they're like, we should go there. Let's go get some food and some shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the town. The town is called Brigadoon, which is what the
oh my gosh,
it's
the thing.
It's the thing. So they go, and there's a little like inn on the edge of town, and they meet a nice young lady. Now, of the hunters, one of them's a little younger, one of them's a little older. So I'm going to call them the young hunter and the old hunter.
Are we talking... Sorry, really quick.
Yeah.
Are we talking like 16 and 18 or like 30 and 40?
25 and 35.
Okay.
Young hunter gets smitten with this lady immediately. And it's like, well, there, darling, let's go for a walk. I give him a southern accent, even though he's from New York City. Anyway, so he's smitten with this lady, and she's like, oh, let's get you some food in town. So they go into town, and there's like buckets everywhere that like have beer in them, and they need milk. And they go to a stand, and they're like, can we have some food? And the guy's like, do you got money? And they say yes, and they hand him money. And he's like, I can't accept your money. And they're like, well, why not? And I'm sitting there like, because you're from America, dude. They're in Scotland. Why do you think they would accept your money?
No, because they're in the past.
This will become very important in a minute, but we'll just pretend that we didn't know that. So then, like, this guy, mayor of the town or something, comes over. He's like, don't worry, I'll pay for their milk. I'll pay for anything they need. And the crowd cheers. And they're like, we want to hear about where you're from. We want to hear all about the big city. And so they're talking. The younger sister of the fair maiden that the young hunter is smitten with is getting married that day.
Okay. Big day.
And she's getting married to just like this nice young lad who lives in town. So they have this whole song and dance number about how this nice young lad is excited about getting married later that day. Now, the bride, she's not allowed to leave their house because the groom can't see her on their wedding day. So we don't really see her much. Or we only really see her in scenes that she has with the bigger sister. So throughout this song and these interactions, the younger hunter realizes that this lass that he's smitten with is single. Because they make a comment like, oh, and her older sister is single. And he's like, oh, she's single, wow. He goes and he finds her. And she's like, I need to go into the fields to pick flowers for the wedding. And he's like, I'll come with you. And they go into the field, and they pick flowers, and they sing and they dance, and they fall in love. So over the course of the single song, they're now both in love with each other, right? Like, that's how musicals work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, wow, this is incredible. Wow, I'm sure I am in love with you. And then there's this whole side plot with the older hunter and like this like too young girl, like probably like 17, is like falling in love with him. And he's like, I am not interested. I don't want to get married. I don't want none of this. And so he's just like drinking a lot.
Okay.
She's like, oh, but there's no boys in this town. And he's like, I go away, please. He's like, he literally like sneaks off. It's like in like a cartoon when like one character's like obsessed with another, I'm gonna call this the Amy Rose Sonic phenomenon, where the one character's like, I'm so in love with you, and the other one's like, bye. So he like runs away. So the two hunters like, reconvene, and one of them's like, I am so in love. And the older hunter's like, don't you have a fiance at home? And the young hunter's like, yeah, but like, I've been like falling out of love with her for a long time, and I have no interest in staying with her. So like, that's not really a problem. I wanted to break it off with her anyway. I sure do love being out here in the countryside and away from the big city. This has really put my life into perspective. And he's like, yeah, wow, okay. So then they trot on back to the house on the edge of town, and the groom had stopped by because he has to sign the family Bible. He has to put his name in the lineage of the family that he's marrying. But he can't go inside because the bride is in there, and she can't see the bride on her wedding day.
And there's only one room.
Yeah, and there's only one room inside the house. But like actually, there's probably like 3 rooms in this house. So the father hands him the Bible out the window, and he signs it on the window ledge, and then he leaves. So now the hunters are walking by, and they go out and they see the Bible on the table, and they go and they open it. And in front of the family Bibles, there's always like, this person was born on this date and then died on this date, and this is who they married, and these are their children, and then everyone signs the family Bible, right? You have a family Bible, I'm sure.
No.
Okay. Well, that's what you do with them.
Okay.
So they look at it, and they're like, this is so odd. All these people in town, Billy and Joey and Sarah, all these people that like we're meeting and getting to know, their birth dates are all listed as the early 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
That's such an odd thing. And the one guy's like, maybe everyone in this town is named after their ancestor from 200 years ago. You know, it says here they were born in 1730, and it's currently 1950. So maybe they're just named after their great-grandmother. And the other hunter's like, it does seem odd, though. Let's go ask the girl I'm in love with. And so they go to the girl that he's in love with, and they're like, what's going on here? And she's like, I guess I'm going to go grab the town elder, and he'll explain everything. Now, this movie is 2 hours long, as I've stated.
Right.
I have stated that, correct?
Yeah.
This scene is exactly 1 hour into the movie. So we're halfway through. The entire first half of the movie is singing, dancing, falling in love in fields while picking flowers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a musical.
Yeah.
It's just a musical.
Right.
There's a wedding going on later. He's falling in love with the girl next door. That is the only thing that has happened this entire movie.
Uh-huh.
The following hour is going to delve into some really weird sci-fi nonsense.
Okay.
So they go to the elder, and they're sitting on this hill, and the elder is like, well, you see, there were these witches, and they were coming to get us. And so our town minister made a deal with God, and God created this miracle. And so what happens is, to protect us from these witches, every night when we go to sleep, we wake up, and the town and everyone in it sleep for 100 years, and we wake up, and it's 100 years later. And this protects us from witches. So the witches can't find us, because we're gone for 100 years. And so one day, every 100 years, the town appears, and we wake up.
Wait,
this happened.
So this is every night, or it's one night in the year?
Every night, they go to sleep for 100 years, and then wake up 100 years later.
Oh, okay.
And he said, this miracle, and he explicitly says this in the movie, he says, this miracle happened for us the day before yesterday, 1754.
Okay.
Which means you're just a normal guy in this town, going out, milking your cows. There's a wedding coming up. The nice young lass down the street's marrying that lad. Like, oh, there's going to be a big wedding in 2 days. Walking along, and then someone says, hey, come to the town square for a minute. You go to the town square, and your minister's like, there are witches coming, but don't worry, I've solved the problem. We're going to time travel. And then you go to sleep, and you wake up the next day, and it's 1854. And you attend to your goats, and you're like, oh man, that big wedding's tomorrow. And you go to sleep, and you wake up, and it's 1954. And you're like, today's the day of the wedding. And then you're going to go to sleep, and you're going to wake up, it's going to be 2054.
Yeah.
The day after the big wedding, you're like, oh man, I got to sleep off that hangover. And you're going to kind of stay inside all day. And then you're going to wake up the next day, and it's going to be 2154. By the end of the month, it's going to be 4,000, the year 4,000 something.
Uh-huh.
I did the math. Let's say that the younger sister in the movie is 16 years old, and let's say that no one else has any kids, and so she's the last person alive, and she lives to like the age of like 50 something, which was life expectancy in the 1750s. She's going to die in the year 1,500,000, etc.
Okay.
To escape some witches that have been gone already for 200 years.
Yeah.
Any amount of scrutiny, and this entire premise falls apart and is complete nonsense.
So what happens the rest of the... I'll come back to the scrutiny, but what happens then?
So the town elder tells the hunters, yeah, we go to sleep every night for 100 years. We've been doing this for 2 days. It's been 200 years. And the young hunter's like, well, that sucks, because, like, I'm not part of the miracle, so if I want to settle down with a young lass, then, like, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna wake up, and you all are gonna be asleep in this parallel dimension, and I'm gonna be walking around a ghost town for 100 years. And the guy's like, no, you see, the minister, when he was making the deal with God, he left in a loophole. And that's if an outsider ever came, and they truly loved someone from inside the town, then they would be allowed to join us and be part of the miracle. And the young hunter's like, wow. And then the elder's like, but should anybody who's part of the miracle ever leave the town and leave the outskirts and not be back by nightfall, then the miracle will end. and the whole thing will break and it won't work anymore. And they're like, wow. Now, one character that I skipped over is I'm going to call the local town bully. This is a big jerk man. And by man, I mean like boy. Like they're probably like 18. And he was in love with the woman who's getting married. So the love of his life is marrying someone else that night.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, I hate this place. I don't like it here. The love of my life's marrying someone else. And there's like no girls. And I live in a town of like 60 people. And we're all just farming cows. So if you're this guy, you wake up, you go around town, you're sulking that the love of your life is marrying someone else. Someone says, hey, come to the town square, there's a meeting. You go to the town square, there's a meeting, and your minister says there's witches coming, but don't worry, I figured out the solution, we're going to time travel. You're pissed off, you go to bed that night, wake up the next day, it's 1854. You're still pissed off, your love of your life's getting married tomorrow, go to bed, wake up, it's 1954. And you're like, my life's falling apart, I don't know what's going on anymore. So that day, he loses it. He's like, guys, I'm leaving. Bye. And it's not because he wants to hurt the town. It's not because he wants to, like, break the spell. He's just like, I live in a small, rural town with no one here likes me. I'm going to the big city. The big city for 1750 standards.
Yeah.
See ya. So he leaves. Now, the older hunter is not liking this magic nonsense, and so he's just getting even more drunk and stumbling around. He's like, none of this is real, I hate all of this. Young hunter's like singing and dancing with the bride's older sister at the wedding. So all the men get together and they're like, we need to go stop the evil Billy from breaking the spell. And so they chase after him. So now all the men are chasing the young bully, through the town and then out of the outskirts of the town and then through the woods. And this is all, done like a song and dance number.
Mm.
So evil bully man sees a tree and he jumps on the branch and he climbs up the tree, and then the town mob runs past him. They don't see him, and he's up there in the tree. He has escaped them. The old hunter is walking around drunk, and he looks and he sees a pheasant or a quail on the ground, and he points his rifle at it because he's a hunter. And the quail suddenly takes off into the sky, and he follows it with his rifle, and he points upward, and he shoots into the tree. And he shoots the bully kid, and he falls out of the tree, and he's dead.
Right.
And then the town comes and sees him, and they're like, he must have hit his head on a branch and then fallen out of the tree and died. And they're like, oh, this is so sad. Let's take little Billy back into town.
Explains that weird bullet wound.
Yeah. What's a bullet?
Who knows?
What's a modern bullet hole look like? It's 1754.
There's
Bullets
a weird hole in his
balls.
chest, but his
must
head
have been from where he hit it. No. So now the drunk hunter goes to the young hunter and is like, I just killed a boy. Mm-hmm. I just killed someone. And the town have no capacity for understanding how I did it or that I did it. And back in the real world, legally, this kid doesn't exist. So I will never receive any sort of punishment for this. I'm off scot-free. But I still killed someone because of my drunken mistake.
Yes.
And the young hunter's like, wow, Billy. Or I keep calling everyone Billy. Like, wow, buddy. That sure does suck. Anyway, bye. So the drunk hunter, who's been, like, coping with all this nonsense by drinking, now has to deal with the fact that he killed a kid.
Because of his coping mechanism of alcohol.
Yeah, from the magic. So then they go into town and the wedding happens. Everyone's happy. The town elder is like, we will tell the women that we captured him, but we won't tell them that he died until tomorrow because we don't want to ruin the revelry of the wedding.
Okay.
So the night's coming. They're going to all go to sleep. And the hunters are like, I guess we have to go back to New York now. And the young hunter looks at the girl he's fallen in love with. And he's like, it sure is sad that I have to choose right this moment between, this love that I have for this person, this simple life, and going back into the big city and marrying someone that I don't really want to marry. And, in a Hallmark movie, this is when they'd be like, should I stay in the small town with the girl or should I go back to the big city?
Yeah.
But in this, because the premise is that the town is literally going to magically disappear forever in like an hour, he has to make the choice now and he can't change his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, whichever one he chooses, he is stuck with forever.
Yeah.
Which is symbolic of when you have those choices in real life, but like it takes it to the extreme. Like I think I've talked before on the show about how like Doctor Who is really good with this, where it's like, oh man, it feels like the person you love is really far away because you're doing long distance. But in Doctor Who, they're like actually they're in a parallel universe and you can never see them or else time will unravel.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So in this, it's like, you know, the decision of do I follow my career aspirations and move to the city and lose out on love, or do I choose love and stay in the small town, is heightened because due to the story, it's magic and you literally cannot change your mind. So the hunters leave and they go to the city. And it cuts to a month later. And there's a really busy bar. It's like right after working hours. The old hunter is at the bar already getting drunk. He's not doing well.
Having a bad time.
Having a bad time. He's middle-aged, doesn't believe in marriage. I think like his wife left him, which is why he doesn't believe in marriage. And he killed a kid and he can't tell anyone. And even if he did, he technically didn't do anything wrong because the kid doesn't exist. And he just learned that like there's magic. And he's just sitting at the bar getting drunk. And the young hunter is there, and it's after work, and his fiancée comes and meets him at the bar. And she's like, I've been shopping for homes in, like, New Jersey, and I think we should go and look at some homes for when we get married so we can move out of the big city and live in the suburbs. Like, that's what she sounds like, right? She's annoying. Why are you gasping?
Is she going to be like, we need to move to a small town, and then it's going to be the same small town, and she's the witch or something?
No, she's just an annoying person he's not in love with who wants to move to the suburbs.
Oh, okay.
And it's symbolic of him being like, hey, like, not only are you guys getting married, but, like, you're about to, like, put a down payment and sign a lease on a house, so we're like, it's really over. Like, your ball and chain is, like, it's already around your ankle, but it's about to get locked.
Hmm.
So he's standing there, and he makes a comment. He's like, even though I know it's gone forever, I keep hearing these little things that remind me of there. And so as he's sitting there, the wife will say something, and it'll trigger, like, the word she says will be the same phrase used in one of the songs that was sung earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll say something, and then they, like, turn off all the studio lights except for the spotlight pointed at the main guy, and then the chorus from that song plays with the word that she used, and then the music fades out, and then she continues talking, and then she says another word, and it triggers that, and it plays another song. Yeah. And it's like, wow, that was really clever. That's actually my favorite part of the movie. I think it's very well done. And he stands up, and he says, sorry, I am calling off our wedding. And he turns and he runs, and he goes to the old hunter at the bar, and he's like, I need you. We're going back to Scotland. And so they go back to Scotland. And they're sitting there in the woods, staring at where the town was. It has literally disappeared, and they're just staring at a field. And the young hunter is like, I knew that it wouldn't be here, but, like, I had to see it for myself. I need to know that it's gone. Like, yeah, we were told it would disappear when we left, but, like, now standing here staring at the empty field, I know that all that magic nonsense was real and that it's actually gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the old hunter's like, yeah, it sure is. It sure does suck that you chose the big city living over the true love. And the young man goes, isn't it so tragic that, like, you only know what you have when it's gone? And it's really sad. And then that's, you know, the movie's about to end. But then the town manifests itself in the big field, and it just appears to them. And the elder starts walking down the path towards them. And they're like, Elder, what's going on? I thought you said you guys slept for 100 years. What are you doing back? And the town elder said, well, like I said, God put in a loophole that if an outsider truly loved someone in the village and showed their true love, then we could let them in. So I've woken up a little early, and I'm going to allow you back in. And he goes, wow. And he turns to his old hunter friend, and he says, goodbye, friend. I'm going to go and choose love. And then him and the elder skip down the road into the town. And that's the end of the movie. And I'm sitting there like, okay, so now the hunter needs to go home and tell his business partners and his employer and all of their friends that he went on a hunting trip with their buddy and that he mysteriously didn't come back, and also you can't contact him ever again, but I swear he didn't die. I didn't accidentally shoot him on the hunting trip and cover it up. He's just gone forever in some other inexplicable way. Also, I'm still depressed because I killed a kid. Also, magic is real. Also, I just lost my best friend forever. Also, my wife left me. So this is like existential dread. Horrible dread for the older hunter, but I guess it's a happy ending because the young hunter now gets to live until the year 1 million in the town with the lady that he met yesterday and fell in love with over the course of one song.
Hooray! Yeah!
That's the end of the story, and I do actually think it's a very beautiful story, and like I said, using the Doctor Who example, it's a very good exploration of these real events, but blown up in a big fantastical sci-fi way to make you really understand the importance. But if you look at any of the specifics of the story, it makes no sense, and it's actually kind of horrific.
Yeah. The older hunter could just be like, we went on a hunting trip. He loved it so much he moved out there. And I don't have his new phone number yet.
And I don't have his phone number yet.
When I do, you guys will be the first ones to get it.
40 years, the old hunter's going to be like 80, staring at like dial-up internet, and he's going to be like, if he didn't disappear to that magical Scottish town, I could like send him an email and get back in touch. But I can't because he's like, what happened to the young hunter's parents? Like, he has no one in his life that he loves more than the lady he met for a few hours.
Yeah, true love. Get out of here. So I thought a few things as you were telling me this.
Mm-hmm.
A, you kept being like, oh, the old hunter's so sad because he's having all these truths learned that magic is real and this town's time traveling and stuff. He learns God is real. And I think that alone is enough to rock your world.
Well, it's 1954, so of course, like, duh, everyone knows God's real.
But then also, like, I mean, this gets into that nitpicky internet culture thing, which is, overplayed a bit. But, like,
I agree.
Dude, what about are witches immortal? They can't break the curse just because of old age? Also,
like, like, okay, so it's the modern day. Let's say these witches are still alive. Does that mean every other town on Earth is under threat from witches?
Yeah. I thought the, like, loophole was going to be like, well, if anyone never came back, that the magic is broken, and since someone died, he can't come back to, like, for realsies. So the spell was broken.
No, the spell being intact is the good ending. If you do look online, you're going to find very annoying people who basically tell a story just the way I did, and then are like, this is with a slightly different, outlook, this is a horror story. This is so terrifying. And I'm like, yes, if you look into the premise, it falls apart, but, like, it's still an amazing story about, like, knowing what you have before it's gone and true love and stuff like that. Like, obviously it's silly that they fell in love in one day and that all this stuff happened, but, like, the message is important and good. I personally hope that in 2054, someone makes a sequel and we get to see a movie. I'm sure it will be in the public domain by then, so maybe me and you can do it. 30 years from now, exactly 30 years from now, 2054 is currently 2024. 30 years from now, me and you, Brigadoon 2, Too Many Brigs, they wake up as the next day.
And what, though?
I don't know. We got 30 years to figure it out, though. So, yeah, I watched this movie, and I went to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, that movie's kind of weird. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. But that was the third musical I watched this week.
Wow. I think the old hunter had it right a little bit.
Yeah, drink to get over your pain.
Yeah, and then when that doesn't work and it causes horrible repercussions, drink more. I'm a little. I think it would have been all the more. It would have been a bit bitter, but like They go back to the town and it's just gone, and he's like, "Oh, I really did mess up. Oh well, time to make most of what I have after having made my decision."
I also agree that would have been a more poignant, pointful ending. I think people at the time would have hated it, right? And then it would never have gotten popular because no one would have been like, oh my god, Joey, you got to go watch this movie. Because if it ends with a really downer ending, like, that would be how a Twilight Zone episode would end, right? Not a musical.
It ends with true love doesn't matter. You picked wrong.
But, like, he did pick wrong, and, like, oh, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about the movie because I'm working it into a script. Like, I had to watch the movie for a video I'm writing, so then basically the entire thing I just told you I will be explaining in a video.
Wow. Sneak previews.
Sneak preview, yeah, if you're watching this. But yeah, it's been
so
a very musical week for me.
And that's fabulous. We love that for you. What is the overall connecting thread between the three?
They're musicals.
No. Make one.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will argue anyone. I have a very broad definition based on tropes. I have a very broad definition of isekais. Isekais are other world stories. Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, those are the two classic examples, etc. Narnia fits in there. I think that typically those stories involve another world in which the main character becomes a fish out of water. Typically, there are some rules associated with the travel between the world, and their end goal is generally that they want to get back home, right? Alice goes down the rabbit hole, goes to Wonderland, wants to get back home, it's all quirky in there. Dorothy goes to Oz, wants to get back home, it's all quirky in there. Narnia, go through the wardrobe, etc. I argue that Back to the Future is an isekai. Because he goes to another world, it just so happens to be the past, but it's before he's born, and there's all these rules. Like, he can't do something that would change time so that he wouldn't be born, and he wants to go back to the future. So I argue, Back to the Future, that's an isekai. I think Eric might disagree.
This has nothing to do with the question I asked you.
Well, yes, it does. So, Wizard of Oz is an isekai, right? 100%. That's what everyone agrees with. Wizard of Oz, isekai, right? Right?
Yeah, sure.
The definition, literally the definition. Brigadoon. I think that it's not exactly an isekai. In fact, in the video that I'm working on, I say that we should call this genre of thing a brigadoon. But it's there's another world that they go to. It's not that they can't leave. It's just that if they leave, something like bad happens. And it's weird in there. So brigadoon, kind of like an isekai. It's another world story. Right?
And then Wonka is an isekai because...
So, I 100% will fight people the same way I think Back to the Future is an isekai. I think the original Willy Wonka is an isekai. Because when you enter the factory, it's a weird, wacky world in there. It's like Oz or Wonderland. Outside, in the real world, things are normal and Dickensian. But inside, it's another world. And they even, like, the way that they leave, like, they enter in this weird magic door that's shrinking, and then they leave on the big glass elevator. So I will argue that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the Gene Wilder movie, is an isekai. And thus, Wonka as a prequel to that movie is also an isekai, the same way that Wicked, a prequel to Wizard of Oz, is an isekai. So I rest my case, Brigadoon, Wicked, and Wonka. There are isekai-adjacent movies. That's my connection. And they're musicals.
I disagree.
Well, you're right.
I understand the points that you've made.
Mm-hmm.
I think Back to the Future, though, does not qualify because it's the rules to, like, get back to Earth and... Well, now they're on Earth. They are home. They're just not in the when part. But the rules to get back to when are... not to, like...
You have to go 88 miles per hour in a flux capacitor. In Narnia, the way you get home is just going back in the door that you came out of. In The Wizard of Oz, you just got to click your shoes together, you know?
I've never seen Back to the Future, so I can't really...
That is true. I forget that you haven't seen Back to the Future. But no, you have to be going 88 miles per hour in a vehicle that has a flux capacitor, which is the key to time travel.
I don't know. I think there's also something, though, for Wonka and Brigadoon, which is... It's not that they are in a different world, it's that they're in an unfamiliar place. Like, if you took, let's say, Wonka, right, where it's like this big factory and they go inside and it's weird and they don't understand it. I think you could take any random person from today, shove them into any random factory from today, and they'd be like, here are the rules so you don't get lost and what not to do and what not to press, and if you do this thing, that'll explode, and this and that and this and that. And they'd be like, what's happening? But they then go to another world. They're just in a building surrounded by unfamiliar technology and principles.
I just think that it's almost too arbitrary to be like, oh, Narnia is another world. But Willy Wonka's factory isn't. Also, like, at the end of Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland, it's like, oh, the whole thing was a dream anyway. So, oh, does that count if it's a dream? Dante's Inferno, same thing. The original Isekai. You know, it's all a dream in the end.
Well, yeah. This is the great debate of Isekai is, do dreams count?
Yeah. So, you know, I have a whole argument about if the Matrix is an Isekai, because, like, is it a reverse Isekai, or is it because the thing that looks like the real world's actually the other world to us, but to the characters that's the normal world, and then the other world that they go to is the real world, but it's also technically not because it's the future for us. So, like, is it an Isekai? Like, obviously it is, because there's two worlds that they travel between, but, like, is it normal Isekai, reverse Isekai? Like, what's going on? I think the Matrix, like, it hurts my head to think about that specifically.
There's gotta be...
Because, like, you would agree, Sword Art Online, Isekai or no? Wake up in a video game world. Stuck there. I agree, it's an Isekai. Okay, so then is the Matrix. The Matrix, the movie where Morpheus offers Neo a choice, and he says, if you take this pill, you will go down the rabbit hole into Wonderland like Alice. And then he does that, directly stating that this is like Alice in Wonderland. Is that an Isekai, Eric?
I've never really seen The Matrix.
Oh my god, you gotta watch these 90s movies. The Matrix, Back to the Future, technically an 80s movie. Back to the Future.
I think there's one, at least for The Matrix, and Sword Art Online was until it wasn't. Like, I think the key thing for an isekai, right, is that you're trapped in another place and you're figuring out how to get home.
Yeah.
Once you can go back and forth and it's as simple as putting on a VR headset, then you're just playing a video game. Or in the case of The Matrix, you're plugging in or whatever. Like,
well, so in The Matrix, if you're in The Matrix, you can only leave if you're talking into a telephone and you have to, like, talk to someone on the other side, right? So, like, they'll be running from the agents and they need to find a phone booth. Like, the guy in their ear will literally be like, you have to go 2 blocks north and 1 block west to get to a phone booth, right? So there's a rule for how you're allowed to leave.
Sure, but you can leave back and forth. Like, I would say a traditional isekai story is, I am trapped, the ending of the story is that I get home and am happy with that, and I learned lessons along the way. Once you start, like, flip-flopping between worlds, that's just like a sci-fi or fantasy story, isn't it?
What if you take the entire Narnia franchise as one story, where every book the kids go back?
I didn't read the Narnia books.
You didn't read Narnia? You gotta get cultured. Did you watch at least the movies that came out, like Lion,
I
Witch, and
watched
Wardrobe?
the first one.
Okay, so I'm not going to get into the argument about what order to read the books in, but in the next one that has the Peveril kids, the younger ones at least, go back to Narnia. That's Caspian. And then, like, they bring their cousin with them, and then in the next one after that, the cousin goes back without them, and then the last one, they all go back, but they don't really, because Narnia ends up being heaven, and they actually die. So it's a whole thing.
The Jesus line was true all along.
Halfway through the last Narnia book, they're like, we need to find a way to get back to Narnia, and they go on this train, and then they're on the train, and the train takes them to Narnia, and they're like, wow. So there's the wardrobe you can get there. There's these magic rings you can put on. There's this painting portrait you can jump through. So there's lots of ways to get to Narnia. In the last book, they take a train there. And at the end of the book, Aslan goes, actually, the train did not take you to Narnia. The train crashed and you all died. Narnia is heaven, though, which is how you got here. And they're like, wow. And then the last paragraph is like, and then they had many adventures in heaven.
So
Too many to count.
Did they, like, die with the wardrobe?
They died in... No. So, again, many things can get you to Narnia, not just the wardrobe. And so they just kind of thought that the train was magic and took them there.
So Narnia is heaven, but you don't have to die to get to heaven.
Yes, there's these magic. So you don't know why the wardrobe can take you to Narnia, do you?
No, because
So
it's a magic wardrobe.
no. So in The Magician's Nephew, which takes place before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there's these magic rings that you can put on, and the magic rings will transport you to parallel dimensions. And so the main character of that book, go to all these different dimensions, and they hop, and they actually find that the evil Ice Queen Witch is from a different dimension than Narnia, and they accidentally let her into Narnia, and so it's their fault. And they get home, and they bury the rings in the backyard to hide them, and then a tree grows over them, and then they cut down the tree and they make it into a wardrobe. And so the old man that the kids go to live with in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was actually the main character of the first Narnia book who'd been to Narnia. So that's why the wardrobe does it, because it's built out of the magical ringwood tree.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, I'm done for now. You good with this episode? Taskmaster and marshmallows?
And isekais.
Oh my!
What if
the line? No, it's got to be based on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The marshmallow, the Taskmaster, and the isekai.
Oh my!
That's even better. Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my! It's from Wizard of Oz. It works. It works. Print it. Hit send. Print.
All right.
Send it out.
I'm
sell
hitting
it.
send.
Okay, hitting send. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Remember, you can always leave emails at slapendipity@gmails.com if you want them to read us. You want us to read them on the show.
Watch out for lions and
tigers and bears.
And teleporting towns and factories made of chocolate.
Is Happy Slappy Town a Brigadoon?
No.